about water, and probably its most important characteristic, is that it's polar. And I want to help you kind of understand what that means. And so we're going to draw a water molecule. So if you'll draw this with me in your interactive notebooks, we're going to kind of walk through what it means for water to be polar, okay? So we know, hopefully, the formula for water, which is H2O, okay? And that tells us that we have 2 hydrogens and 1 oxygen. And so let's go ahead and draw it. So here's our big oxygen molecule, and here are our 2 hydrogen molecules. Looks a lot like Mickey Mouse, which is an easy way to kind of remember it. And in our oxygen, we're going to have these protons, okay? And protons have a positive charge. And so this nucleus has a pretty positive charge. Now in these hydrogens, you only have 1 little proton. So they have a positive charge, but not very much of it, okay? And these are bonded together, the hydrogens and the oxygen, and they have electrons that are circling around both and being shared, okay? When electrons are shared, we say this is a covalent bond. And so within the water molecule, we have a covalent bond holding those hydrogens to those oxygens. And what happens is that these electrons are spinning. They're moving around these nuclei, okay? That's how they're being shared. And what happens in water, because oxygen has this big positive pull, these electrons slow down. They're like, ooh, big amount of oxygen, and they slow down around that oxygen. And then they go really fast around the hydrogen, and then they slow down around that oxygen, fast, fast. And so the electrons are spending a lot more time down here around this big oxygen molecule. And if the electrons are spending more time down here, there ends up being a slightly negative charge on this side of the water molecule, okay? And because the electrons are going so fast around the hydrogen, there ends up being a slightly positive charge up there close to those Mickey Mouse ears, right, which are our hydrogens. Now, the overall charge of water is balanced. There is no overall charge, but there is a slightly negative end and a slightly positive end. And that, guys, having a slightly positive end and having a slightly negative end, that is polarity. And this is really going to play into a lot of the things that water does, okay? And we're going to talk about the rest of those in our notes. But this fact that water has a slightly positive end and a slightly negative end is super important for everything else that water does. And that's its polarity. Now, overall, no charge. But it has that slightly positive end, that slightly negative end.